quick like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. My name is Nathan. I'm 37 years old, and I work as a contracts manager for a construction firm in Phoenix, Arizona. I spend my days reviewing legal documents, identifying discrepancies, and making sure every clause means exactly what it says. I'm trained to read between the lines, to spot when language is being used to obscure rather than clarify. I never thought I'd need those skills to understand what my own wife was really asking for. But when someone asks for a trial separation, and their attorney has divorce papers ready to file within 48 hours, you realize the trial was over before it began. I met Caroline 10 years ago at a friend's pool party in Scottsdale. She was working as a real estate agent, charismatic and driven in ways that impressed me. I was more reserved, more cautious. She pushed me to take risks. I gave her stability. We complemented each other. We got married after 2 years of dating. Bought a house in the Arcadia neighborhood, a mid-century modern with mountain views and a pool. The kind of house successful couples buy when they're building a future together. For the first 7 years, everything worked. Caroline's real estate career took off. I advanced to senior contracts manager. We traveled, entertained, talked about maybe having kids eventually. Life was good. Then about a year ago, something shifted. Caroline became distant. Not obviously, she was too smart for that. But the warmth faded. The easy conversations became transactional. The physical intimacy decreased gradually, in ways you don't notice day to day until suddenly you realize it's been weeks. Everything okay? I'd ask. Just stressed with work. The market's been tough. Anything I could do to help? No. I just need to push through it. She started working longer hours, coming home at 8, 9, 10 at night. Weekend open houses became all-day affairs. Her phone became an extension of her hand, constantly checking messages, always just work. I told myself it was temporary. Real estate could be demanding. She was building her business. This was normal. Then 6 weeks ago, Caroline suggested we talk. It was a Sunday evening. We were sitting on our back patio, watching the sunset paint the Camelback Mountain orange and purple. She had that look. The one I'd learned over 10 years meant she'd been rehearsing something. Nathan, I've been thinking about our marriage. My stomach dropped. Okay, I think we need some time apart to figure things out. What things? Whether this is still working, whether we're still right for each other. Are you saying you want a divorce? No, not necessarily. I'm saying I think we need a trial separation. Some space to get perspective. How much space? I was thinking I'd move out for a while. Maybe 3 months. We'd have minimal contact. Really give ourselves time to think about what we want. 3 months of minimal contact. I know it sounds drastic, but I think we've been on autopilot for too long. We need to step back and figure out if this marriage is what we both actually want. Every word sounded reasonable, measured, like she'd thought this through carefully. But something felt wrong. In my work, when someone proposes a trial period or temporary arrangement, it usually means they've already made their decision and are just managing the other party's reaction. When did you start thinking about this? I asked. The last few months. Maybe longer. I've been feeling disconnected. And you didn't think to mention it? To suggest couples counseling? To try anything before jumping to separation? I'm not jumping to anything. That's why I'm suggesting a trial. To see if time apart helps us reconnect or helps us realize we're better off apart. Caroline, trial separations don't usually save marriages. They usually just ease people into divorce. That's not what this is. Then what is it? She took a breath. It's me being honest that I'm not happy and I need space to figure out why. We talked for another 2 hours. She wanted to move out by the end of the week. She'd already looked at furnished apartments, just browsing, she claimed. She suggested we tell people we were taking some time without getting into specifics. Every detail felt pre-planned, rehearsed. Is there someone else? I asked finally. No, this isn't about another person. It's about me and whether I'm where I want to be in my life. But you're not denying the possibility of seeing other people during this separation. She hesitated. I think the separation should mean we're free to explore what we need to explore. So a trial separation where you can date other people while technically still married. I'm not planning to date anyone. I just think we shouldn't have restrictions on what this time means. Translation. She wanted permission to see someone else without the guilt of cheating or the messiness of divorce. I need to think about this, I said. Of course. Take the week. But Nathan, I'm serious about this. With or without your agreement, I need the space. She moved out that Friday, took her clothes, her personal items, and moved into a furnished apartment in Tempe. For the first week, I was in shock. Try to process how we'd gone from everything's fine to I need 3 months apart in a matter of days. But then my contracts manager instincts kicked in. Caroline's proposal had been too polished, too prepared. The language about trial separation and minimal contact in 3 months was too specific for someone who claimed to be figuring things out. When someone presents a fully formed plan for something they claim to have just started considering, they've been planning longer than they're admitting. I started looking for evidence. We had a joint bank account for household expenses and separate accounts for personal spending. I pulled the joint account statements first. Nothing unusual. Mortgage, utilities, insurance. All the regular bills. Then I logged into our credit card account, a card in my name that Caroline had as an authorized user. There were charges I didn't recognize. Dinners at expensive restaurants I'd never been to. A weekend at a resort in Sedona in December that Caroline said was a solo wellness retreat. Multiple charges at a wine bar in Scottsdale over the past 6 months. I cross-referenced the dates with my calendar. Every single one corresponded to a night Caroline said she was working late or meeting with clients. Then I noticed something else. Hotel charges in Phoenix. 3 different occasions. All at the same boutique hotel downtown. Why would Caroline need a hotel in the same city where we lived? I called the hotel. Hi, I'm trying to confirm a reservation my wife made. Caroline, Chun. Let me check. Yes, Mrs. Chun has stayed with us 3 times in the past 6 months. Would you like to book another stay? These reservations were, for how many guests? Our standard rooms accommodate 2 adults. And the bookings were under her name only? Yes, sir. Thank you. I hung up. Caroline had been staying at hotels in Phoenix, rooms that accommodate 2 people, while I thought she was working late or showing properties. I pulled the credit card statement again, looked at the dates of the hotel charges. All 3 corresponded to nights Caroline said she was in Tucson for real estate conferences. She'd been lying for months. Then I found something else in her home office. Caroline had a filing cabinet where she kept personal documents. I'd never gone through it. We'd always respected each other's privacy. But she'd moved out, and something told me to look. In the back of the bottom drawer, I found a folder. Inside were printouts of Arizona divorce law, articles about asset division, a comparison of divorce attorneys in Phoenix with ratings and notes in Caroline's handwriting. One attorney's name was circled, Rebecca Sandoval. Next to it, Caroline had written, "Consult February 14th. February 14th. Valentine's Day. 3 weeks before she'd asked for the trial separation. She'd been consulting with a divorce attorney before even mentioning problems in our marriage. I pulled out my phone and called Rebecca Sandoval's office. Law offices of Rebecca Sandoval. Hi, I'm Nathan Chun. I believe my wife, Caroline Chun, has been consulting with Ms. Sandoval. Let me check. Yes, Mrs. Chun is a client. Is this regarding her case? What case? There was a pause. I'm not at liberty to discuss client matters, sir. You'd need to speak with Mrs. Chun. Is Ms. Sandoval handling Caroline's divorce? Another pause. Longer this time. Sir, I really can't. It's a simple yes or no question. Is my wife's attorney handling our divorce? I can't confirm or deny. Thank you. That tells me what I need to know. I hung up. Caroline had hired a divorce attorney 3 weeks before asking for a trial separation. She'd researched divorce law. She'd been planning this for months while telling me everything was fine. The trial separation wasn't about figuring things out. It was about softening the blow, easing me into accepting the end of our marriage while she positioned herself legally and financially. I called my own attorney that afternoon. His name was Robert Morrison. We'd worked together on some contract disputes for my company. Robert, I need to file for divorce. What happened? I told him everything. The sudden trial separation request, the hotel charges, the evidence she'd been consulting with a divorce attorney for weeks before telling me there were problems. She's already 3 steps ahead of you legally, Robert said. She's had time to prepare, to strategize, to position her assets. We need to catch up fast. What do I do? First, document everything. Those credit card statements, the hotel records, the divorce research you found. Second, separate your finances immediately. Remove her as an authorized user on your credit card. Move your personal funds to an account she can't access. Third, we file for divorce before she does. She asked for a trial separation, which is an illegal status in Arizona. You're either married or you're not. If she wants out, we make it official on your terms, not hers. She's been planning this. Now we plan better. I spent that evening documenting everything. Photographed the divorce research. Downloaded credit card statements. Created a timeline of her lies. Then I called Caroline. Hey, she answered. Surprised. I thought we weren't supposed to contact each other during the separation. You said minimal contact. This counts. We need to talk. About what? About why you've been researching divorce attorneys since February. About why you hired Rebecca Sandoval 3 weeks before asking for a trial separation. Silence on the other end. Nathan, you asked for a trial separation, but you'd already decided on divorce. You've been planning this for months. The separation was just your way of controlling the narrative. How did you? I found your research. I called Rebecca's office. I know you've been preparing for this. I was just exploring options. You hired an attorney. That's not exploring options. That's executing a plan. She sighed. Okay, yes. I've been thinking about divorce for a while, but I didn't want to just blindside you. The separation seemed like a gentler approach. Gentler for who? You get to move out, start your new life, keep me in limbo, thinking we might work things out while you're actually meeting with attorneys. That's not how it was. Then how was it, Caroline? She was quiet for a moment. I met someone. There it was. Who? His name is David. He's another real estate agent. We've been working together for about 8 months. 8 months. While she'd been coming home late, having those hotel stays, going to those expensive dinners I found on the credit card. How long have you been sleeping with him? Does it matter? Yes, because you've been lying to me for months while planning your exit strategy. I'd like to know the full extent of the deception. Since November. But Nathan, this isn't about David. It's exactly about David. You didn't suddenly become unhappy. You met someone else and decided you wanted out. Instead of being honest, you constructed this elaborate trial separation story to make yourself feel better about cheating. I wasn't cheating. We were having problems. We weren't having problems until you created them. You checked out of our marriage 8 months ago and didn't tell me. Then you asked for a separation so you could keep me as a backup while you figured out if David was a better option. That's not fair. What's not fair is being lied to for months. What's not fair is asking for a trial separation when you've already hired a divorce attorney. What's not fair is finding out through credit card statements that my wife has been living a double life. Caroline's voice hardened. Fine. You want honesty? I've been unhappy for over a year. I felt trapped. David makes me feel alive again in ways you haven't in a long time. I try to do this gently with the separation, but if you want to go straight to divorce, fine. We'll do it your way. My attorney will be in touch with Rebecca. Since she's already prepared, this should move quickly. I hung up. Robert filed divorce papers the next morning. Caroline was served at her real estate office that afternoon. She called me immediately, furious. You filed for divorce? Without even talking to me. You hired an attorney 3 weeks ago. You've been planning this for months. I'm just catching up. I thought we were doing a trial separation. Trial separations aren't a real thing, Caroline. They're just a way to ease into divorce. You want it out, you're getting out. On the record, with legal proceedings, the way it should have been from the start. This is vindictive. This is honest. Something you haven't been in almost a year. She tried to argue, but I'd already heard enough lies. Rebecca Sandoval called Robert 2 days later. They had a conversation I wasn't part of, but Robert summarized it for me. She's claiming the marriage broke down due to incompatibility. She wants a 50-50 split of all assets, including the house. What do we have for leverage? The evidence that she's been having an affair for 8 months. Arizona is a no-fault state, so the affair won't affect the divorce grounds. But it can affect property division if we can demonstrate she spent marital funds on the relationship. The hotel charges, the dinners, the Sedona trip. Exactly. We can argue that she dissipated marital assets in pursuit of an extramarital relationship. That could shift the division in your favor. What about the fact that she lied about the trial separation while already having an attorney? It demonstrates bad faith, but it's harder to quantify legally. The financial evidence is stronger. The divorce moved into discovery. Caroline had to produce her financial records, phone records, everything. Her credit card statements showed exactly what I'd suspected. Hundreds of charges at restaurants, hotels, and weekend getaways with David. All paid for with marital funds while she was still living in our house, still married, still pretending everything was normal. Rebecca tried to argue that Caroline's personal spending was her own business. Robert shut that down with Arizona law showing that marital funds spent on an affair could be considered waste of community assets. Then something interesting happened. During a deposition, Caroline was asked directly about the timeline of her relationship with David and her decision to end the marriage. When did you first consult with an attorney? Robert's paralegal asked. Mid-February. And when did you ask your husband for a trial separation? Early March. So you consulted with a divorce attorney before discussing problems with your spouse? I wanted to know my options. Did you tell your husband you were consulting a divorce attorney? No. Did you tell him you were considering divorce when you asked for the trial separation? Caroline hesitated. Not in those words. What words did you use? I said we needed time apart to figure things out. But you'd already figured things out, hadn't you? You'd already decided on divorce. You'd already hired an attorney. The trial separation was a delay tactic. That's not. Ms. Chun, yes or no? When you asked for a trial separation, had you already decided you wanted a divorce? Long silence. Yes. That admission changed everything. It demonstrated that Caroline had been deceptive from the start. That the trial separation was never about reconciliation. It was about controlling the process on her terms. Robert used that admission to argue for a more favorable property division. Mr. Chun was operating under the belief that the marriage might be salvageable, he argued. He was honoring his wife's request for space while she was actually consulting with attorneys and planning her exit. That deception, combined with her use of marital funds to finance an affair, demonstrates bad faith that should be reflected in the division of assets. We settled 3 months after I filed. I kept the house. Caroline hadn't contributed to the down payment and had only made sporadic contributions to the mortgage while her real estate commissions went to personal spending. We split other assets 60-40 in my favor to account for the marital funds she'd spent on her affair. No spousal support for either party. Caroline got to start her new life with David. Free and clear, with no further obligations to me. I heard through mutual friends what happened next. Caroline and David's relationship lasted about 4 months after the divorce before imploding. Turns out David had liked the excitement of the affair, the secret hotel stays, the expensive dinners, the thrill of being with someone else's wife. He didn't like the reality of an actual relationship with someone who came with divorce baggage and a reputation for deception. He ended it in October. Caroline was devastated. She'd blown up her marriage for a man who'd never intended to be long-term. She tried to reach out to me after that. A long email about mistakes and regrets and how she'd thrown away the best thing in her life. I read it once and deleted it. She'd asked for a trial separation, but already had divorce papers ready. She'd claimed we needed time apart, but had been planning her exit for months. She'd lied about every part of her intentions while positioning herself legally and financially. That wasn't a mistake. That was calculated deception. I stayed in the house, kept my job, kept rebuilding my life without someone who saw our marriage as a contract to be negotiated rather than a commitment to be honored. About a year after the divorce, I started dating again. Met someone named Jennifer at a work conference. She was an architect, straightforward and honest in ways Caroline had never been. On our 3rd date, I told her about Caroline. She asked for a trial separation, but already had a divorce attorney. For 3 weeks, she'd been planning everything while telling me we just needed to work on our communication. Jennifer shook her head. That's calculated. That's what it felt like she was managing me, controlling the narrative while she set everything up behind the scenes. What did you learn from it? That when someone asks for a trial separation, they've usually already made their decision. The trial is just for your benefit, not theirs. And that in relationships, just like in contracts, you need to pay attention to what people do, not just what they say. That's a tough lesson, but a necessary one. We've been together for over a year now. Jennifer doesn't play games. When she has a problem, she says it. When she's happy, she shows it. When she commits to something, she means it. No trial periods. No hidden plans. No deception. Just honesty. I think about that conversation with Caroline sometimes. Sitting on our patio, watching the sunset, while she asked for a trial separation in words she'd clearly rehearsed. She'd made it sound reasonable, thoughtful, like she was trying to save her marriage by giving us space. But her lawyer had papers ready within 48 hours. Because the trial was never about figuring things out. The verdict was already in. She just needed time to stage the execution. My wife asked for a trial separation. Her lawyer already had divorce papers ready, and that timing told me everything I needed to know. The trial was over before it began.